The desert world was silent, a land of endless dunes and broken stones. Long ago it had been home to a powerful queen, but now only ruins remained. The sun hung heavy in the sky, turning the sands into waves of gold. To most, the planet was a forgotten graveyard. To Mark and his team, it was the beginning of a mystery. Mark was the leader of the explorers. He was not a soldier or a ruler, only a man driven by curiosity. He believed that hidden in the desert there was something greater than dust and broken statues. His boots sank into the sand as he studied a half-buried wall rising from the ground. Strange carvings ran across its surface, symbols that glowed faintly as if the stone still remembered its makers. Lena, the scientist of the group, brushed away sand with careful hands. Her eyes widened as she traced the lines of the carvings. "These are not random marks," she said. "They tell a story. They speak of a queen who ruled not only this world but others far beyond." Paul, the strongest of the team, laughed at the idea. "Stories carved into walls do not feed us. What good is this unless there is treasure?" Rena, quiet but sharp-eyed, looked out across the dunes. "The locals warned us not to come here. They said the queen's spirit still guards what lies beneath. Do you think they were only stories?" Mark kept his eyes on the symbols. He could feel something stir in him, something deeper than greed. "Legends begin somewhere," he said. "If this is true, then the Queen's vault may still exist. If it does, it holds more than gold. It may hold knowledge that could change everything for humanity." The wind picked up, sending sand across their faces. The desert seemed alive, as if it had been listening to their words. For a moment the team stood in silence, the weight of the ruins pressing on them. That night, as they set camp near the broken wall, Mark walked alone among the stones. Moonlight fell on the ruins, revealing more carvings. He followed them like a trail, each one showing images of ships, battles, and crowns. The last carving showed a door, carved in detail, and beneath it words that Lena later translated, "Only the worthy may enter the Queen's eternal house. Those who seek with greed will awaken her shadows." The words sent a chill through the camp. Paul frowned. Shadows. More old tricks to scare children. Rena shook her head. No. The people here truly believe in this. If shadows guard the vault, they are not made of stories. Lena adjusted her notes and spoke with excitement. "If this vault is real, it is the greatest find of our age. We came here for answers. This could prove that humanity is not the first to rule the stars." Mark listened, his eyes never leaving the desert horizon. He knew every great discovery came with risk. Yet he also knew that humanity had always risen higher by daring to go where others feared. He made his choice. "We move at dawn," he said. "The vault is out there, waiting." The next day they marched deeper into the desert. The dunes shifted under their feet, and the heat pressed down like a weight. Hours turned into days, but Mark pushed them onward. He studied every stone, every ridge of rock, searching for signs that matched the carvings on the wall. At last, after a storm nearly buried their camp, Rena spotted something strange. Half covered by sand stood the top of a stairway, carved from dark stone. The steps led downward, vanishing into shadow. The air around it was cooler, as if the desert itself respected the place. Mark's heart pounded as he stood at the edge. "We have found the path." Lena knelt to study the first step. Symbols were carved into it, glowing faintly as if the Queen herself had left a warning. She read them slowly. "Those who step here must walk with honor. Without honor, the Queen's guard will never sleep. Paul spat into the sand. Enough warnings. This is what we came for. Treasure, knowledge, all of it lies below. Are we going to turn back now because of a riddle? Rena's voice was calm but firm. Warnings exist for a reason. We should be careful. If the Queen ruled worlds, she would not have left her vault unguarded. Mark placed a hand on the stone wall. It was cold against his skin, colder than the desert around them. He looked at his team. He saw hunger in Paul's eyes, fear in Rena's, and determination in Lena's. He carried all of these feelings within himself, but stronger than all of them was a sense of purpose. This is not just treasure, he said. This is a test. Humanity has always been tested by the unknown. This will be no different. We go down together, and we face whatever waits. With that, he stepped onto the first stair. The stone lit under his boot, casting pale light down into the depths. The stairway seemed endless, each step echoing like thunder in the silence of the desert. Behind him, his team followed. As the last rays of the sun vanished, the explorers disappeared into the earth, leaving behind the empty dunes. The desert grew quiet once more, but in its silence it seemed to whisper. The Queen's secret vault had been found, and its story was about to begin. The stairway pulled them down into darkness. Each step glowed faintly beneath their boots, lighting their way without the need for torches. The air grew cooler as they descended, heavy with the scent of age and dust. The walls around them were smooth, carved with precision that spoke of a people far more advanced than the ruins above suggested. Mark walked at the front, his eyes sharp, his hand brushing the cold stone. He felt a strange pressure in the air, as though the stairway itself was alive. Behind him, Lena took notes on her device, copying every symbol she could see. Paul kept his arms crossed, muttering about how long it would take to reach the bottom, while Rena scanned the shadows, her instincts warning her of danger. After what felt like hours, the stairway opened into a vast chamber. The explorers stood in silence, staring at what lay before them. The chamber was enormous, its ceiling lost in darkness. Tall pillars lined the hall, carved into the shapes of warriors holding spears. At the center stretched a path of stone, leading toward a grand archway at the far end. Faint blue light pulsed from the carvings on the walls, bathing the chamber in an otherworldly glow. This is not only a tomb, Lena whispered. It is a temple. Look at the detail. Every line tells of devotion. Mark nodded. This was built to last forever. We are standing in the heart of her empire. Paul stepped forward, his boots clanging against the stone path. Then the treasure must be close. All this work, all this beauty, it had to protect something valuable. But Rena pointed at the walls. Look carefully. These are not only decorations. The others turned their gaze to the carvings. The walls showed scenes of the Queen's reign. She was depicted as tall and graceful, wearing a crown of stars. Around her were armies of soldiers, each one standing in perfect order. The final image near the archway was darker. It showed intruders entering the vault, only to be struck down by shadowy figures that rose from coffins. Guardians, Rena said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp. The Queen left her defenders here. They will not rest until their duty is done. Mark studied the scene carefully. He knew the Queen had not ruled for wealth alone. She had ruled through fear and loyalty, and both had survived through the ages. He turned to Lena. What do the words say? Lena bent close to the carvings near the archway. After a moment of study, she read them aloud. Those who seek without honor will awaken the eternal guard. Those who walk with purpose may pass. The team exchanged uneasy looks. Paul shook his head. More riddles. If we keep stopping at every warning, we will never reach the vault. Mark's gaze was firm. The warnings are not here for nothing. We move carefully. One wrong step could mean death. They advanced slowly across the stone path. Their footsteps echoed through the chamber. The pillars seemed to watch them, their carved warriors holding spears as if ready to strike. Every sound felt louder in the silence, every breath heavier. Halfway across, the ground trembled. Dust rained down from above, and the carvings along the walls glowed brighter. The explorers froze, their hearts pounding. What was that? Rena whispered. Lena studied the symbols glowing on the nearest pillar. It is a reaction. The chamber is alive. It is watching us. Mark tightened his grip on the strap of his pack. Then we keep moving. Do not run, do not panic. If it tests us, we prove ourselves. They continued, step by step, until they reached the great archway. It rose higher than any human building, covered in flowing patterns of stars and crowns. At its base lay a door of black stone, sealed with glowing lines that pulsed like veins of light. This is the entrance to the vault, Lena said, her voice trembling with awe. Behind this door lies everything the Queen wanted hidden. Paul's eyes gleamed. Then open it. Mark raised a hand to stop him. Not yet. Look around first. On the floor before the door lay 3 stone circles, each filled with strange symbols. They pulsed faintly, waiting for something. Lena bent down to study them. These are trials, she said. Each one may be a key. But they are not simple locks. They test the one who steps inside. Paul groaned. So we waste more time solving puzzles while treasure sits behind that door. Mark turned to him, his voice calm but firm. If you rush, you will wake whatever guards this place. Do you want to fight what is carved on those walls? Paul stayed silent, though his eyes still burned with impatience. Rena knelt beside the first circle. The Queen was not only protecting her gold. She was protecting her knowledge. She wanted only those with honor to reach it. If we fail, we may never see the surface again. Mark placed a hand on the circle. It was warm to the touch, as though alive. He felt it respond, glowing brighter under his fingers. He looked back at his team. This is the path we must take, he said. We entered her house. Now we face her test. Humanity has always earned its place through struggle. We will do the same here. The chamber grew silent again, the air heavy with expectation. The glowing symbols on the circles brightened, as if they were listening. The explorers stood together, their hearts racing. Ahead of them, the sealed door of the vault waited, its secrets hidden behind stone and shadow. And deep within the walls, unseen eyes seemed to open, watching their every move. The air grew colder as Mark touched the glowing circle on the floor. The symbols flared to life, sending ripples of light across the stone. For a moment, the explorers felt a deep vibration under their feet, as though the chamber itself had woken. A sharp cracking sound echoed through the hall. The team turned and froze. Along the sides of the chamber, the tall sarcophagi that lined the walls began to tremble. One by one, their heavy lids slid open. From within stepped figures wrapped in metallic cloth, their forms tall and skeletal. Their faces were hidden behind masks shaped like jackals, their eyes glowing with blue fire. Each carried a long staff tipped with a blade of shining crystal. Rena's voice was steady but low. The Guardians. The Queen left them here. Paul gripped his weapon, panic flashing in his eyes. They are mummies. Machines, monsters, I do not care. We cannot fight them all. Mark's jaw tightened. He studied the figures as they moved. They were slow but precise, their steps echoing together as though guided by one mind. He knew this was no accident. These were not just corpses. They were protectors, built or shaped to serve forever. The first guardian raised its staff. A beam of blue light shot across the floor, striking the stone where Paul had stood a moment earlier. The blast sent shards flying and filled the chamber with smoke. "Move," Mark shouted. "Do not stand still." The team scattered. Rena ducked behind a pillar, Lena dropped to the ground clutching her notes, and Paul dove aside with angry curses. Mark sprinted forward, drawing the attention of two guardians. Their staffs crackled with light as they swung, but Mark rolled aside, feeling the heat singe his arm. "They are not alive," Lena cried out. "Look at the way they move. They are following patterns. They are programmed." Mark's eyes lit with understanding. "Then we break the pattern. Outthink them." Paul fired his blaster, but the beam bounced harmlessly off a guardian's chest. "Outthink? These things are made of stone and metal. They do not fall." Rena's sharp eyes caught a detail. She called from her cover. "Their masks. That is where the light comes from. Aim for the eyes." Mark seized the chance. As a guardian stepped toward Lena, he grabbed a piece of broken stone and hurled it with all his strength. The rock struck the glowing mask, shattering one of the blue eyes. The guardian stumbled, its staff lowering as its movements slowed. "That is it," Mark shouted. "They are not unstoppable. Strike their faces." Paul swung his weapon like a hammer, smashing into another guardian's mask. Sparks flew, and the figure collapsed into stillness. For the first time, the explorers felt a spark of hope. But the victory was brief. More sarcophagi opened, releasing fresh guardians. Their glowing eyes lit the chamber like stars, and the sound of their staves crackling filled the air. Lena shouted over the chaos. "We cannot fight them all. This chamber is endless. There must be another way." Mark's mind raced. He remembered the carvings, the warnings carved into the walls. "Those who walk with purpose may pass." The words struck him like lightning. The guardians were not meant to be killed. They were meant to test. He raised his voice. "Do not attack. Stay on the path. They are guarding the walls, not the road." The others hesitated. Paul cursed but lowered his weapon. Rena was the first to move, stepping carefully onto the center path that led to the black door. A guardian turned toward her, but as she held her ground and did not strike, it froze in place. Its glowing eyes dimmed, and it stepped aside. "It works," Rena called. "They respond to intent." Mark ordered the others to follow. Step by step, they walked along the center path. The guardians moved closer, surrounding them, but none struck. The air hummed with tension, every second stretching longer than the last. Paul's hand twitched toward his weapon, his face twisted with impatience. "We are walking blind. If they attack, we will be slaughtered." Mark's voice was sharp. "Trust the test. This is what the Queen wanted. Only those who can resist fear and greed may pass." With each step, the guardians slowed. Their glowing eyes dimmed as if recognizing the explorer's resolve. At last, the team reached the black door. The glowing circles on the floor pulsed again, brighter than before. Lena pressed her hands against the carvings, her voice filled with wonder. They were not only guards. They were judges. They measured our hearts. Mark exhaled, his shoulders heavy with relief. Then we passed. For now. Behind them, the guardians returned to their sarcophagi, their eyes fading into darkness. The lids closed one after another until silence returned to the hall. Only the faint glow of the door remained, waiting for the next step. The team stood together, shaken but alive. They had faced the Queen's first guardians and survived not through strength but through discipline and trust. Mark placed his hand on the black stone door. It was warm, pulsing with hidden power. He looked at his team. The first test is behind us. The true vault lies ahead. And with a deep rumble, the door began to open. The black stone door groaned as it slid open, releasing a gust of cold air that carried the weight of centuries. Mark and his team stepped forward, their boots echoing in the vast silence beyond. The chamber that stretched before them was unlike anything they had seen in the ruins above. The ceiling soared high, vanishing into darkness. Golden patterns glittered across the walls, shaped like stars flowing into rivers of light. At the far end stood a towering statue of the Queen herself. She was carved in perfect detail, her crown shining with inlaid crystals that pulsed faintly, as if alive. Her hands rested on a long staff, and her stone eyes seemed to follow the explorers as they entered. Rena whispered, her voice almost reverent. "She looks alive. As if she is waiting for us." Lena stepped closer, her eyes wide. "The craftsmanship is beyond anything I have studied. Every line, every crystal, it all carries meaning. This was not only a statue. It is a message." Paul frowned, unimpressed by artistry. His eyes darted toward the base of the statue, where the ground shimmered with golden plates. "Forget the message. Look at this. The floor itself is treasure." Mark ignored Paul's words. His gaze was drawn to the massive door beneath the statue, sealed with streams of glowing light. The carvings around it showed stars, crowns, and battles. It was not a vault door of stone but a gate of energy, pulsing like a living heart. "This must be the Queen's true vault," Mark said. "Everything we have faced was meant to lead us here." Lena knelt near the carvings, running her fingers gently across the glowing lines. "These symbols are different from the others. They tell of her legacy. She wanted those who entered to understand her story. She ruled not only with power but with fear. To her people, she was eternal." Paul's impatience boiled over. "Enough stories. Can you open it?" Lena shook her head. "Not yet. These symbols are warnings. They speak of knowledge beyond measure, of maps to unclaimed stars, of weapons forged from suns. But they also speak of destruction if the vault is opened without honor." Rena circled the chamber slowly, her eyes scanning every shadow. She felt the weight of the Queen's gaze on her back, though she knew it was only stone. Yet something about the silence unsettled her. "She is watching us," Rena murmured. "Even in death, she does not rest." Mark turned toward his team. His voice was calm but steady. "Then we treat this place with respect. If the vault holds what Lena says, it could change everything for humanity. But if we fail, we may never leave alive." As he spoke, the ground shook softly. From hidden slits in the walls, streams of light flowed into the statue, filling the crystals of her crown. The Queen's stone eyes flared with golden fire. The explorers froze. "She is waking," Lena whispered. The statue's mouth opened, and a voice filled the chamber. It was not loud, yet it carried through their bones. It was the Queen's voice, preserved across centuries. You who enter my chamber, know this truth. I ruled the stars, and I kept them in order. I left my treasures not for thieves but for heirs of purpose. Speak, and I will judge your intent. The explorers exchanged fearful glances. Paul stepped forward first, his voice bold. We came for what lies behind that door. Riches, power, weapons. Whatever you hid, we claim it. The statue's eyes flared brighter, and the ground trembled as if in anger. The queen's voice turned cold. Greed is the first shadow. It brings only ruin. Paul stumbled back, his face pale, but the statue's gaze shifted toward Mark. Mark steadied his breath. We came because humanity seeks to grow. We do not want only gold or power. We want to learn. We want to know how you ruled, how you built, and how we may carry that knowledge into the stars. The fire in the statue's eyes softened. The queen's voice grew calm once more. Words of growth. Yet words alone are not enough. The path of honor is tested, not spoken. Suddenly, the golden lines on the floor lit up, forming a circle around the explorers. The energy rose like walls, sealing them in. The statue raised its staff, and the door beneath her pulsed with brighter light. This is the trial of truth, the queen's voice declared. If your hearts are strong, the vault will open. If they are false, the guardians will rise again. Mark's team braced themselves, hearts pounding. They had already faced guardians once. None wanted to see them again. Lena studied the glowing patterns on the floor. It is not an attack. It is a puzzle. Each line leads to a choice. We must step carefully. Wrong steps will wake the guardians. Mark nodded. Then we solve it together. They moved slowly across the glowing floor, following the lines. Each step made the light shift, forming new patterns. At times, the walls of energy shook as though ready to release the guardians. But Rena's sharp eyes caught the paths that led forward, and Lena's knowledge of symbols guided them. Paul's frustration boiled, but Mark's steady voice kept him focused. Every step matters. Patience is strength. At last, they reached the center of the circle. The energy walls faded, and the statue lowered its staff. The queen's voice filled the chamber once more. You have not yet proven yourselves, but you have taken the first step. Ahead lies my eternal vault. Within it, you will find what you seek. Whether it becomes your blessing or your doom will depend on the choices you make. The glowing lines on the sealed door shifted, unlocking with a low rumble. The great gate began to part, releasing a blinding light that spilled into the chamber. The explorers shielded their eyes, their hearts racing. The queen's trial was only beginning, and the true secrets of her vault were about to be revealed. The massive gate opened wider, its golden light spilling across the explorers. Beyond it stretched a passage that glowed with shifting colors. The air carried a hum that made the skin tingle, as if the walls themselves held power. Mark and his team stepped forward carefully, their eyes filled with both fear and wonder. The passage led them into another chamber, smaller but even more breathtaking. Crystals rose from the ground like frozen flames, each one glowing with inner light. The walls shimmered with symbols that moved and changed, telling stories as if alive. In the center of the room rested a pedestal of stone. Upon it floated a crystal orb, shining brighter than the rest. Lena gasped. This is a core of memory. If we unlock it, it could reveal the Queen's history, her knowledge, perhaps even her technology. Mark studied the orb but did not reach for it. If it is here, then it is another test. Nothing this valuable would be left unguarded. Rena agreed. She scanned the shadows with cautious eyes. We passed the first trial, but that does not mean the tests are over. We must move carefully. Paul's gaze, however, was fixed on the glowing orb. His heart raced at the thought of the riches it could lead to. Maps to lost worlds, weapons beyond imagination, treasures hidden across the galaxy. To him, this was no trial. This was opportunity. As the others debated, Paul's voice cut through the chamber. We cannot waste time with caution. Every second we stand here, someone else could find this place. Do you not see? This is the prize. Mark frowned. No, Paul. This is temptation. The Queen made her vault to test those who came here. If you touch it without care, you may doom us all. But Paul's impatience had grown into hunger. He stepped toward the pedestal, ignoring the warnings. Stop, Rena snapped, moving to block his path. You are blinded by greed. If you take it, you will awaken the guardians again. Paul's eyes burned with anger. And if we do nothing, we will leave empty-handed. I did not cross a desert and risk death to walk away with stories. Humanity deserves more than scraps. We deserve power. He shoved past Rena and pressed his hands against the orb. At once, the chamber roared to life. The crystals blazed with blinding light, and the walls shook as if the planet itself had awakened. From the ground, hidden sarcophagi opened once more. New guardians stepped forth, taller and stronger than before. Their eyes glowed red instead of blue, and their staves crackled with fierce energy. The team staggered back in terror. Lena cried out. They are the second guard. Stronger, faster. We cannot face them. Mark glared at Paul, fury in his voice. You have doomed us. You gave in to greed, and now we must pay the price. Paul clutched the orb to his chest, his face filled with both triumph and fear. No, this is our path forward. We only need to fight our way out. The guardians moved with deadly speed. One swung its staff, sending a wave of energy across the floor. Mark pushed Lena aside just in time, the blast shattering a crystal behind them. Rena pulled her blade and slashed at a guardian's mask, but the blow barely scratched it. These guardians were no longer bound by slow patterns. They were hunters. Retreat, Mark shouted. We cannot win this fight. They ran toward the archway, but the guardians closed in. One leapt forward, striking Paul. The orb flew from his hands, rolling across the floor as he fell. A guardian seized him in its grip, pulling him into the shadows. His screams echoed, then were cut short. Lena froze in horror, but Mark pulled her forward. Do not stop. He made his choice. We must survive. The orb glowed where it had fallen, but none dared to touch it again. Instead, they raced back toward the path that had brought them here. The guardians pursued, their footsteps shaking the chamber. At the edge of the archway, the statue of the Queen appeared once more, her form shimmering in golden light. Her voice filled the chamber. Greed brings only death. One has fallen, and more shall follow if you do not learn. Mark stopped, turning toward the glowing statue. We are not thieves. We do not seek only treasure. We seek knowledge. If there is still a chance, judge us for that, not for his failure. The Queen's gaze fixed on him. For a long moment, the chamber was silent except for the footsteps of the guardians. Then, slowly, the statue lowered its staff. The red glow in the guardians' eyes dimmed, and they froze where they stood. The Queen's voice was cold but steady. One of your kind failed, but the others may yet prove themselves. Leave the orb. It is not for the greedy. Walk forward, and you will face the true trial. The guardians returned to their sarcophagi, their movements smooth and mechanical. The orb sank into the pedestal once more, its light fading to a faint glow. The chamber grew still again, though the air remained heavy with the memory of what had just happened. Mark, Lena, and Rena stood together, shaken and weary. Paul was gone, taken by the Queen's guard. His hunger for treasure had cost him his life. Mark's voice was quiet, but it carried strength. We continue. For Paul, it is too late. For us, we must not fail. The Queen is watching, and she will not forgive another mistake. With heavy hearts, the explorers turned toward the deeper halls. The light of the vault still glowed ahead, but now they knew the price of betrayal. Only honor and unity would lead them to the end. The chamber behind the Queen's statue opened into a narrow tunnel. The walls shimmered with golden carvings, and the air grew heavier with each step. Mark, Lena, and Rena moved slowly, their hearts weighed down by the memory of Paul's betrayal. The silence between them was thick, broken only by the sound of their boots against the stone floor. At last, the tunnel widened into a vast hall. The ceiling stretched high, lined with silver stars that glowed softly. The floor was made of smooth black stone, reflecting their faces like water. In the center stood a circle of steps leading to a raised platform. Upon it rested a great throne carved from crystal. Seated on the throne was the glowing figure of the Queen herself. Her eyes shone like fire, and her voice filled the hall. You have entered the heart of my vault. Many before you have reached this place, but few passed the final trial. Speak now. Why have you come? Mark stepped forward. His voice was steady though his chest was tight. We came seeking knowledge. Our world is young compared to the stars. We hoped that within your vault we would find guidance, not gold. The Queen studied him in silence. Then her gaze shifted to Lena. And you? Do you share his words, or do you seek treasure to bring back as proof of your journey? Lena held her ground. Gold fades. Power corrupts. What endures is wisdom. If we return with knowledge, we can raise generations beyond our own. That is what I seek. Finally, the Queen's eyes fell upon Rena. The warrior tightened her grip on her blade and lowered her head. I came as a protector. At first, I thought of glory, of being remembered as the one who conquered this vault. But now I see the truth. Survival alone is not victory. Honor is greater than glory. The Queen's voice grew deeper. Words are easy. Prove them. At her command, the floor of the hall shifted. The black stone melted into patterns of light. 3 paths opened before the explorers, each glowing with different colors. One was red, blazing with fire. One was blue, flowing with water. One was green, filled with images of roots and vines. The Queen raised her staff. Each path is a trial. One tests courage, one tests wisdom, and one tests unity. You must face them together. If even one fails, all will fall. The team looked at one another. Mark nodded. We choose together. No one stands apart. They stepped toward the green path, and the floor closed behind them. At once, vines rose from the walls, twisting into shapes that blocked their way. The vines lashed out like serpents, striking with sharp thorns. Mark swung his torch, burning one away, but 2 more grew in its place. Lena examined the walls and noticed faint patterns hidden under the vines. The way through is not force. Look at the carvings. They are showing us a rhythm, a song. She began to hum softly, matching the patterns. The vines slowed, their strikes becoming weaker. Rena caught on quickly, tapping her blade against the wall in rhythm with Lena's tune. The vines parted, curling back like living curtains, and the path opened. The queen's voice echoed faintly. Wisdom has guided you. Now face courage. The path shifted to the red corridor. Flames roared from cracks in the walls, filling the air with choking smoke. A bridge of stone stretched ahead, but fire erupted from below, scorching the way forward. Mark clenched his jaw. We move fast. Do not look back. They dashed across the bridge as fire licked at their heels. At the halfway point, the stone began to crumble. Rena grabbed Lena's arm, pulling her over a falling piece, while Mark shielded them with his cloak. He leapt last, landing hard on the edge just as the bridge collapsed behind him. The three lay gasping, but alive. Again, the queen's voice came. Courage has carried you. Now face unity. The path turned blue, calm, and silent. Ahead lay a great pool of water, so clear it reflected the ceiling like a mirror. In the middle of the pool rose a platform with a golden seal. A narrow walkway appeared, but as soon as they stepped onto it, the walkway cracked. Sections broke apart, drifting away like rafts. Soon each of them stood on a separate piece, divided by the water. Lena cried out, "We cannot reach the seal alone. We must find a way to cross." Mark looked at the pieces. If we push toward one another, we can link them together. Rena shoved her piece with her feet, guiding it closer to Lena's. Together they joined the rafts, steadying them with their arms. Mark leapt across the gap, and all three reached the seal together. They pressed their hands upon it as one. The water glowed bright blue, then vanished, leaving them standing on solid stone once more. The queen rose from her throne, her form shining brighter than before. You have faced the trials and endured. Where others fell to greed and fear, you showed wisdom, courage, and unity. You are worthy to stand before the secret of my vault. The throne dissolved, revealing a staircase descending deep into the earth. A glow of golden light poured upward, bathing the explorers in warmth. Mark tightened his grip on his pack. His voice was low but filled with resolve. This is it. The treasure she guarded for centuries. Let us see what the queen truly wished to protect. With cautious steps, the three began their descent, unaware that the greatest revelation still waited below. The staircase spiraled downward for what felt like forever. Each step echoed through the stone, the sound heavy in the silence. Mark, Lena, and Rena moved with care, their torches lighting the path as the glow from below grew brighter. The air became warmer, carrying a faint scent of flowers and earth, as if life itself rested in the depths. Finally, the stairs ended at a grand doorway. It was carved from solid crystal, and on its surface shimmered images of stars, rivers, and fields. The queen's voice spoke once more, soft but commanding. This is my final gift. Inside lies what I preserved for the worthy. You proved wisdom, courage, and unity. Step forward, and the vault shall open. The explorers stood together, hearts pounding. With one shared nod, they pressed their hands against the door. The crystal shone with golden light, then parted with a low hum. Beyond lay a sight that stole their breath. The chamber stretched wider than any city they had known. Instead of stone walls, there were gardens of glowing plants, tall trees with silver leaves, and streams of water that flowed with light instead of liquid. In the distance, towers of crystal rose like mountains, each one humming with energy. Birds of radiant feathers flew in the air, their songs echoing across the garden. It was not a treasure of gold or jewels. It was a living world, hidden beneath the earth, preserved through ages. Lena gasped, tears filling her eyes. This is no vault of riches. This is a vault of life. The queen saved a piece of her world. Mark's voice was quiet with awe. She did not guard treasure for herself. She guarded hope for the future. This is what she wanted to give humanity. Rena knelt by the glowing stream, letting the light wash over her fingers. It is warm. Alive. If we can learn from this, if we can carry even a piece of it home, our people will never suffer hunger again. As they explored, they found statues of the queen among the gardens. Each statue held a different tool, a scroll, a staff, a seed, a flame. Lena studied them carefully. These are symbols. They mean knowledge, power, growth, and spirit. She left reminders of what truly matters. Mark noticed that at the center of the chamber stood a large crystal spire. It pulsed like a heart, sending waves of energy through the garden. The queen's voice came again, gentle and proud. This spire is the memory of my people. Within it are the stories, the teachings, and the wisdom of our time. Take from it not greed, but guidance. If you use it well, humanity will rise brighter than even the stars. The three explorers approached the spire. As they placed their hands upon its surface, images filled their minds. They saw vast cities filled with peace, where science and nature lived together. They saw great fleets traveling to the stars, not to conquer, but to connect. They saw children learning under trees that glowed with knowledge. They felt the unity of a people who had chosen wisdom over war. Tears streamed down Lena's cheeks. This is the gift. This is what we must protect. Mark's heart swelled with determination. Then it must not remain hidden. Humanity must see this, must learn from it. But we must guard it from those who would twist it for power. Rena rose, her blade sheathed at her side. We are its keepers now. The queen is gone, but her will continues in us. As they prepared to leave, the queen's final words echoed through the chamber. Remember, treasure is not what shines in the hand, but what grows in the heart. Take my gift to your world. Carry it with honor. The doorway opened once more, leading them back toward the surface. The climb felt lighter now, as if the garden's warmth pushed them upward. When they finally emerged under the open sky, dawn was breaking over the desert. The first rays of sunlight painted the sand in gold. Mark turned to the horizon, his eyes filled with resolve. We came seeking treasure, but we found something far greater. This is not the end of our journey. It is the beginning of humanity's rise. Lena held her notes close, already filled with sketches and memories from the vault. We must tell our people not just of the garden, but of the trials. They must know that wisdom, courage, and unity are the keys. Without them, the gift will turn to dust. Rena stood tall, scanning the sands around them. Others will come. We must be ready to protect it, just as the Queen's guardians once did. If we falter, her gift will be lost. The three stood together, stronger than when they had entered the vault. Paul's greed had cost him his life, but their unity had saved them. They now carried the weight of a civilization, entrusted to them by a queen long gone yet still watching. As the sun rose higher, the explorers began their journey back to their people. Behind them, the entrance to the vault closed, sealing the garden once more. It would open again only when humanity proved worthy, but now its secret had keepers who would guide the way. The Queen's vault had not given them endless treasure of gold or jewels. It had given them something far more powerful. It had given them the key to a better future. And so their story was no longer just about survival in the desert or daring in the face of death. It became the story of a new dawn, born from the heart of an ancient queen who believed that one day, humanity would be ready.